All right, awesome. Well, of course, let me just start by welcoming everyone to the Health Made Simple show. We're glad you're here and keep doing your thing. Keep sharing it out, keep spreading love. We appreciate all you're doing. Our feedback is amazing. And so whatever you're doing, it's working. Thank you. If you're new to this show, one of the overall objectives is that we're going to do everything we can to, tonight's going to be a perfect example. We'll take all this data, all this information, all this science, all the stuff out there, and I do my absolute best to simplify it as if we were sitting in clinic and I only had a couple minutes to help you make some really good, actionable, decisions right here and right now. So that's the goal of the show here. Tonight, I'm going to do my best with everything I can when we start talking about longevity and what are some of the keys to measuring longevity. How do we know if we're on the right track? We're going to take a little different angle tonight. We're going to talk about diet, but a little different perspective. So keep doing your thing, keep sharing out, keep spreading love. And before we jump in tonight, we're going to do a couple of clinical insights.
Awesome. I love those.
Yes. And for anyone who's new to the show, or if you're not sure what the clinical insights, these are literally insights. I have one. I'm in practice. For example, this afternoon, I was in practice and I had this moment. I go, wow, I think it would just be nice to share this because I think so many people will be able to relate to it or benefit from it. So I'm going to dive right in. The first question, or the first clinical insight I'm going to share with you, young female, still in her, I don't even know, I'm going to guess late 20s, maybe early 30s. She said, Doc, so my husband and I, we are looking to have our second child. Are there any things you suggest we do to be able to become pregnant or prepare for it? I love that question. Just the thought process of thinking, well, I got this probably one of the biggest events that's ever going to take place in a human's life, having a baby or preparing to have a baby, being pregnant, all the good stuff, and thinking about how do you prepare for it. It's literally a high five moment. So anyways, so I give a real simplistic instructions here. And this is how simple it is. Foundationally, one, I said, do anything and everything you can to be in accordance and in rhythm with nature, AKA circadian rhythm. And then she said, what do you mean by that? What is circadian rhythm? I said, it's this simple. Do your best to go to bed with the dark and get up with the light. Always eat in the light, don't eat in the dark. As you do those things, you will be in harmony with nature, which we are. I say we should be. We are, well, let me put it another way. We are part of nature. We are part of the harmony that requires, we are part of what's required to make nature go well. When we interfere with that process, things just happen. Things don't happen, not necessarily in our favor. So it was a great little moment, a great conversation. And then she asked her, is there anything I should take? What should my diet look like? I know to take some prenatals. And prenatals, to me, I think they're good. I have probably a different perspective on them. The prenatal should start with this: eat real food. Stop putting any crap into the Ferrari. And I mean that, like, you're about to make a human life, stop right now. Any shortcomings you have, any whining, any moaning and groaning you have, it's time to stop all that, because you're about to make a Ferrari and you need every little bit of excellence you possibly can. So instead of even doing that, I said, here's a couple of things. We want to make sure we have great baby brain development, which means that you want to have a ton of essential fatty acids. You want to make sure there's plenty of iodine in your diet, which is a little difficult to get. So we got to get like some seafood and whatnot in there, and a lot of choline. And choline comes from eggs. So those are real simple dietary, suggestions that I make for her. And she did ask a question about fertility the first time around. They were having fertility issues because they were trying to force the issue of getting pregnant. The moment they stopped, they got pregnant, which I see it all the time. And that means you get in rhythm with nature, just let things happen naturally. And she did ask, are there any things you use for that? And I said, yes, there's a very specific herb called chase tree, which is fantastic for my ladies. All of them, every cycling woman would benefit from it. And really what it does is it helps the body naturally produce its highest levels of progesterone. And progesterone is the baby-making hormone. I'm sorry, yeah, it is the baby-making hormone. It's chase tree. You don't need a big dose in that. Usually I just start people at 1 a.m. Then the other one I use is something called wheat germ oil. And this is a little bit unique in the sense that this is probably the purest, best source of vitamin E that you can put into your body, natural source. And it comes in an oil, like in a little, it's not a tablet, but it's a little pearl. So vitamin E and chaste tree, the reason the vitamin E is there is that vitamin E, which is one of your fat soluble vitamins, it helps your hormones communicate better. Interesting enough, this is the same protocol I'd use for, say, a teenager that has acne, because it balances the hormone, increases the progesterone relative to the estrogen dominance, and then a Wheater makes the hormones work better. I just have to tell my teenagers that there's a likelihood that you'll become more fertile when you take chaste tree and Wheater more. So that was number one. And I want to share that because I love the question. If you got something big coming in your life, or you're hoping for something, or you're moving in a direction, prepare for it. Just like you prepare for, the Super Bowl or whatever. All right. Number two is a young man, probably about 10 days, walked to my office, construction worker, big, heavy set dude, kind as can be. And he and his wife have a little side business as well. And he had broken English. He speaks, I think he's Mexican, mostly speaks Spanish. Anyways, came in, he's got some low back issues and some knee issues. And then he asked me, Doc, I'm trying, and I love this. I love where this came from. He said, Doc, I'm trying to lose some weight. I want to be healthier for my family, which is awesome.
What a beautiful reason why.
Right? Like, do you need a better reason than that? And he was kind of gesturing that he wanted to lose some weight, get some weight off his, and he's a big dude. So anyways, I said, yeah, it's this simple. I said, I'm going to see you in about 10 days anyways, next week sometime. From now until then, cut out all of the bread, chips, pasta, cut out all the tortillas, cut out all of the foods, all of those carbohydrates that are not real. And then he went in, in his brain, he was like, do you mean no tortillas, no French fries, no fried food? I said, all of it, just cut it out for 1 week until you see me again. And I promise you're going to lose weight. Because he was trying to, this is what happened. He was trying to lose weight. And I give him credit for this, in the gym by doing extra cardio, and he hurt his knee. And it's very, very difficult to outrun a bad diet. You could barely do it. It's not a good strategy. So anyways, he shows up today, glowing from ear to ear, 8 pounds in 10 days.
No way. That's so cool.
Yeah. And that it's a testament to cut the crap out and your body will regulate itself. Yeah.
It's always true, right? Like, just put good things in and good stuff happens.
Yeah. So those are two nice little clinical insights to share, and I'm super proud now. So the other part of that, so this is just scratching the surface. That was like an easy, so this, I could sense this young man. Now he's like on fire. He's like, his knees feeling better. And he's starting to put these things together. Wait a minute. I was overweight. I was inflamed. My knee was hurting me. My back's hurting me. And I love when I see that light go on.
Yeah. And like, it's the first step leads so easily to the second one. That first one can be the tough one, right? And then you're like, oh, I feel better. So it makes all the other choices sometimes easier.
100%. I think you're absolutely spot on there. So that first step, it appears to be the hard one. And yet, if it aligns good and you have a good enough why, like be healthier for your family, and then all of a sudden you just take the leap of faith, and maybe someone like, and he said it meant a lot that I shared that with him. I'm a doctor, right, or whatever. Or in that moment, I'm his mentor and leader. So if you got good advice to share with someone, give it. So that you never know how far reaching something that you can say might happen. So yeah, so glad to share those two.
Beautiful. All right, Bart. So should we dive into tonight's topic? We've got some pretty cool stuff coming up.
Yes, we're going to dive in. Yeah, I'm all ready. Let's dive in. We're going to talk about the 4 keys to longevity. And as I kind of label it that, also think, for all the listeners, think of not only keys to longevity, but things that we could be using to measure along the way to find out, are you doing things to create longevity? And with that, I would say this. Longevity is not something that's super sexy to go after, right? It's not like bigger biceps, and it's not like losing weight. You follow me? It's not really sexual. It's not really sexy. It's not really tangible. Yet I'm going to phrase it this way because I've been in practice for 26 years now, and I've had the I guess the honor and the demise of watching both ends of this. I've been able to watch people through the course of their lives. There's some people I've known for 20 plus years, and I've watched them thrive, and I've watched some people completely dismantle their lives because of their lifestyle and life habits. And I think when you get to a certain age, and I don't know what that age is, you start to reflect and say, Where am I going with all of this? And that's what I want people to be thinking. As we dive into this topic, ask yourself what you're currently doing right here, right now, how you move, how you eat, and how you think, what you're measuring, what you're literally, are you getting on the scale? Are you measuring your blood pressure, your heart rate? Are you doing your labs? What you're doing currently right here, right now. If you keep doing it, we'll be a better place next year or not so good. Your gut health, your mind health, your relationship, all the above. Now let's push it out a little bit. If you keep doing it at the pace you're doing, what are you going to be like in 5 or 10 years? So let's just say right now you're thinking you're pretty good. Age happens. It does, whether we like it or not. Age is happening. So what if you do push out 5 or 10 years? Is there a point, because most of us are sitting in a situation where we have to pay back debt. We have to pay back debt. We've had 10, 20, 30, 40 years of beating down our body. And then we wake up and be like, whoa, I want to be better next year. I want to be faster, stronger, healthier, fitter. I want my mind to work. I want my body to work. I don't want to have aches and pains all the time. So you got to ask yourself, is the strategy that you're using right now, is it strong enough strategy to move you forward quickly? So to move forward fast. So where are you going to be in 10 years? Where are you going to be in 20 years? So if you're kind of doing okay, like, is that really going to move the needle enough in 5 or 10 years? And so that kind of drives it. This is constantly on my mind. It's constantly on the minds of many of the people that I get to take care of, and especially a lot of the clinical people. Well, I'd say the concierge clients that I have. They're ones are saying, listen, I want to know how I can level up my health over these next 5 or 10 years and be as good or better in 10 years than I am here today. So that's what where this conversation goes today. And there's going to be some fun things. I think there's some topics here. For example, I'm going to throw them out there right away so we're paying attention. We're going to talk about sleep. We're going to talk about monitoring and really how important blood glucose levels. It's so simple, yet it really should be what's determining to some degree, our diet. Heart rate variability. We don't talk about it enough here, but it is something that I monitor every single day. I've been doing for about 7 years, and it's very, very indicative of longevity. And then, of course, exercise. And we're going to take a little different perspective on all 4 of these tonight. So then if we have questions, you throw them at me, we'll dive in. So with that being said, let's rock.
Awesome. And I think it's so cool. Like, I know in these strategies, we're going to find ways not only where like longevity, like lengthening lifespan, but also like the quality of your life within those years. So I know we're going to get to tackle it on 2 sides, which is great.
Yeah, great. And that's a great point. So it's not like you have to wait for the benefits.
Yeah.
Literally living them as you go. And I think that does get lost. So thanks for sharing that gets lost in it sometimes, that we think that we're just going to benefit by just being around longer or somewhere down the road. No, the goal here is that each and every year, the quality of life, so literally our health span is being, 2x, 5x, 10x. We are literally doubling down on our quality of life in the current moment here. So we'll start off with number 1, and that is sleep.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. There's in everything we talk about, the next 3, when we talk about blood glucose levels, heart rate variability, and exercise, all of those are going to need sleep as a component for them to be excellent, to be optimal. So tonight, one of the ways that I want us to look at sleep. So I had a great conversation with the staff. I think you were there. We're talking about sleep. And often when I ask people how long you sleep, well, I go to bed at 9, I wake up at 5. And well, that must be 8 hours, right? So that means you got 8 hours of sleep. Not so fast. And the reason I say not so fast, that means that's what time you went to bed, and that's what time you got up. Yet sleep time often differs from that significantly. And the reason I know this, because I monitor my sleep, and sometimes I have 2 or 3 different measuring sticks that I'm using just so I can find the most accurate ones and make recommendations to my peeps. So my current sleeping method to measure is something called the Oura Ring. And again, I have no side deal with them or anything. I'm just a huge fan of the data that you can collect. And I like that it acts as a personal coach.
Totally.
Yeah. So, and you have one as well. Is that right?
I sure do. Oura Ring here in action. And it really helps look at things from a qualitative standpoint. which can be such a different measure than like, yes, I laid my head down at like 9 p.m. and yes, I like the alarm went off at 5 and I got out. A lot happens between those two times.
And the good news now is that there's a lot of, so I use Aura. There's another great company out there called Whoop. And then there's Apple Watch. I think that there's probably a half dozen solid wearables when it comes to resting and sleep. The data that comes from Aura, I still think in their technology that they have, I still think they're probably the leaders in that category. But very specifically, what I'd like to have a conversation about tonight is two categories when it comes to sleep. And so part of it is quantity and quality. Specifically, though, as it relates to REM sleep and deep sleep. So if we have that data, we're really looking at two things that are telling us about longevity. They're really, and I'm going to break these down in just a moment. So anything we can do, and we'll talk about these strategies in just a moment here, that we can increase REM and increase deep sleep, these become part of very measurable ways that we know we're moving in the right direction. So for example, in my concierge program, I take care of a lot of, let's just say, movers and shakers, a lot of, business owners and entrepreneurs and CEOs. And in that, there's a lot of people just burning, what's that saying? You burn the candle at both ends.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not uncommon that when I monitor, and I'll kind of request all of them use an Aura ring so I can see the results. It's not uncommon that I'll see their deep sleep 0 to 30 minutes. And if that is taking place, so for those of you who are not familiar with deep and REM, so REM, as many people have heard before, is the rapid eye movement. And in that sleep, the best way to think about that is that's what's going to help recover your brain. So that's your memories, that's your dreams. This is your mental acuity for the next day. And I'll give some examples about what happens when we drink something or eat something during the night, why it affects us the next day. Now, your deep sleep is a little bit different. It is a deeper part of our sleep. And in that sleep, we do different things. Number one is body recovery. So we have two different things. We got brain, REM. That's how I want you to think: mental acuity, mental sharpness, articulation the next day, memory, all of that fun stuff. And then deep sleep, think body. And there's definitely some crossover there, but for simplicity, that's the way I want you to think of it. And in deep sleep, the second part of that, deep sleep is when your brain detoxes. This is important. This is big time important, because the brain is the last part of the body to go through detoxification. So if we have a lot of inflammation and we have all kinds of things going on in our body, the brain is the very last thing. So when we have a not so good diet and we're inflamed, we have systemic inflammation, the brain is the last thing. And that is one of those reasons that we see so many people that are forgetting words and they are having brain fog and they just don't have the motivation and the energy on a daily basis because their brains are kind of toast. So let's go back for a second to REM and talk about what interferes with it for a second. And then I will give some strategies. And really all of these tonight are going to blend in supporting each other. So there's no one magic, because I get this question. I get every day in clinic when I see someone wear an Aura ring, something like that. We always have these short bursts of conversation. And in them, people say, well, doc, how do I get my HRV up? How do I get my deep sleep up? And it's all of these, and we'll go into those deep tonight. So anyways, in the event that you have an Aura ring, you're using a Whoop or you're using some other type of wearable, one of the things that becomes very blatantly obvious is that your REM sleep is super predictable and affected by your nutrition, especially what you eat the last thing at night. For example, if you have alcohol at night, you will disrupt your REM, which means that the following day, and here's where the trickle effect is, and we're going to get into blood glucose in just a moment. If the following day your memory's off, you're not mentally sharp, what do you think you do?
Usually you go for a little sugary snack, I think.
100%, because it lights your brain up. Yes, and it really does. So sugar, our brain will work off of sugar quite well. So when you're mentally fatigued, physically, quite frankly, as well, you will start to snack more, and it'll really test all of your disciplines. And you might have the knowledge to eat right, but you feel like you have weak willpower because you just can't overcome it, because your brain's fried because you drank last night, you didn't have any REM, the brain didn't recover. And this is one of these situations where if you knew that and you started putting one to one together and go, whoa, look at that. I had a glass of wine last night at 10 o'clock. Whoops, I missed REM sleep last night. I skipped out on some detoxification of the liver, which is 1 to 3 a.m. And all of a sudden, I don't feel so good the next day. The beauty is when we start to measure and start to create some awareness, we can make changes instantaneous. And then imagine if we start to remember, we owe a debt to our bodies and our health, and we got to pay off a big debt. The beauty is we have tools like we're going to discuss tonight to pay those debts down quickly. But we really got to put things to action. So if we really start to say, all right, I'm going to improve my quality of sleep. I'll start with REM. And one of the biggest things that's going to affect your REM is there's a couple of things. One, what you put into your body later at night, and then rhythm, circadian rhythm. And I mentioned this earlier with the pregnancy tip. In order for us to be able to fall asleep properly, we need to abide by nature's rules and nature's laws. So when the sun starts to go down, when we get into that dusk state where, the sun's going down a little bit and it's starting to get a little bit darker, our eyes start to adjust. And when our eyes recognize that, it tells our little gland inside our brain called our pineal gland to release melatonin. Melatonin makes us sleepy, makes us feel good, and then we drift off to sleep shortly after. Unfortunately, or hopefully not too much, but if we are up when that very time we should be producing melatonin and we're sucking back wine, we got ourselves a little quandary there. So one of the ways to improve REM sleep is improve your diet, especially in the evening time, and get to bed on time. What is on time? The closer you can get to circadian rhythm, meaning that you go to bed with the dark and you get up with the light.
Beautiful. And then when we think about that, like circadian rhythm, Bart, it's not only getting into the bed, but ideally, like there's no screens. We're not like just taking the computer into bed with us. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of that. I know it. And you know what? I'm guilty of it. And those are the moments where I check my score the next day and it says, yes, Bart, you were in bed for 8 hours and 45 minutes last night, but you only slept for 6.5.
There it is.
Yeah. And
even if like you aren't measuring currently with an Oura ring or like whatever, if you know that you're like kind of consuming alcohol right before you go to bed and you went to bed a little bit late, is it safe to assume that your REM sleep has been interrupted even if you don't have like the data?
very safe, very, very safe. Yes. Because everyone that has one and they start to observe that late night bowl of ice cream will do it too. You start to observe what happens with the blood sugars and the alcohol, and you start going, oh man, yes. So very safe to assume and to kind of count on or bet on that, even if you're not measuring, it's still happening to you. And just because here's the tricky part with often those things like alcohol and sugar will help you fall asleep. You'll have a sugar crash, you fall asleep, you have an alcohol, it kind of numbs you up, and then you fall asleep. So you think this helps me sleep, but not real quality sleep. And we want that quality and that quantity. So let's shift on to deep sleep here for a second.
Yeah,
so deep sleep is one of the ones that for me, it was an eye opener. When I first started to monitor, I was like, no, that can't be right. It was really, really low. And it was also at a time that my body always felt inflamed. It always felt beat up. And it probably should have been, I guess, right? I'm pretty physical on my body. Yet I was not getting a high quality of deep sleep. So I've been on this, this kind of quest for the last couple of years to really improve. And also when I started doing the concierge coaching and I was doing deep dives with people and really monitoring sleep week to week to week, it was really an eye opener how many people were not getting quality deep sleep. And without that quality deep sleep, that is when more often than not, I'll hear people complain about aging. Their joints hurt, it hurts to get up. In all of those things that go along with kind of the excuse that I feel awful because of my age. And age is not a disease, and it's not a reason for us to all of a sudden be miserable. So anyway, so I've done a deep dive on this for my personal health and then for a lot of my clients as well. And again, because I want to feel good, I want my body to recover because I love using it. And I think everyone would probably say the same thing, right?
Yeah, you love using your body, Bart. That's such a good way to put that.
Yeah, and It is, and I think we forget that. So if that's the very thing that you love, it's almost like a lot of people that have. I love cars. So if you have a fancy car, you probably take really good care of it because you love your fancy car. And we have to start to view ourselves as that Ferrari that we wouldn't let, like we wouldn't even let, the dog get near, never mind like bad gasoline or something. So the deep sleep, that is a part for physical recovery and a big part of longevity when it comes to the quality structurally of the physical body moving forward. So if you're not measuring yet and you got a birthday coming up or you got maybe some holiday or something, and maybe put on your wish list. My favorite still is Aura. And again, I have no affiliation with them. There are some other good ones like Whoop. Whoop does things a little bit different, a little different technology. Apple, I'm sure, has it. I just found the most consistency. Garmin has it. I just found the most consistency and the best data when it comes to REM and deep sleep through the Aura Ring. So we'll start with that. So longevity, number one, be able to know the quality and the quantity of your true sleep.
And did we touch on how we might increase the deep sleep?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. So typically someone who needs more deep sleep, a couple things are taking place. One, your body is staying wound up. That's one of the most fundamental, simple things. So we have to find tools to unwind the body. And if I was just to make it simple for tonight's conversation, you can use yin minerals. I particularly use one called Min Tran. We've talked about it here on the Health Made Simple show before, and it's a whole food mineral base. I often refer to as it's dirt, and there are a bunch of yin minerals. And the Min Tran stands for mineral tranquilizer. It literally helps your body go to mush, which is awesome. The other part of that, which is taking a little bit of navigation for me to really figure out, is the other part of sympathetic dominance of go, go, go. We're always thinking, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as we know we have the button to shut off. And this took me a little while. So even though I was falling asleep, it was more pass out sleep. I was getting REM sleep. My brain has always worked really good as long as I was getting to sleep. Yet the body wasn't recovering. So the other one I found was by helping my body vasodilate. And what that means is that I was literally looking for to get my arteries and vessels to open up easier so I can get more blood, technically more oxygen to all my cells, tissues, and organs. And by doing that ultimately it's an oxygen game. That longevity is an oxygen game. I need more oxygen into the body, into the cells, tissues, and organs, you win. So there's part of the B complex, the vitamin B, it's a complex. Most of the B vitamins do what we call vasoconstriction, and they kind of pump things up. They help us contract our muscles. They get good nerve flow and blood flow. But there's one part of it, one of the vitamins in the B complex called vitamin B2. Vitamin B2 is a vasodilator. Often it's, in the past, we always referred to as vitamin G. And I use a fair amount of this at night. And again, real safe, real gentle. It's a whole food supplement. So for me, part of my formula, and this is the same one I recommend for a lot of my peeps, and I see a lot of great success with it, by giving the body the tools that it needs to unwind. I know that sounds insane. You think we should be able to unwind like that? The average person right now is not so hot at unwinding. To your point of, you lie down in bed, it's dark, but then you turn on your phone. And then we got this blue light that shuts down the pineal gland, shuts off melatonin production, and it keeps you pretty wired. And I know I'm guilty of it. I've done it, and I've scrolled or read or something like that, and I shut it off, and I feel like I'm still wide awake, even though it's pitch black in my room. So.
Well, I can say this, guys. I've worked with Bart for a couple years, and he's basically like a nutrition experiment at this point. So all of these recommendations that he's making is like the work of years of like, try this thing. Like, how can we get ultimate sleep? So thank you, Bart, for sharing these strategies. They're awesome.
Yeah, gladly. And it's and that's part of the journey. I think that's why we call it practice. Unfortunately, in that being said, the nice thing, I don't put myself at risk, right? So I'm always experimenting with whole food vitamins and pure herbs and whatnot. So and I'll push the envelope in terms of how much we can take. And the reason I say this, so anyone who thinks out there, well, you shouldn't take that many, I think about what I've done to my body and the debts I need to pay back when it comes to food. I've eaten a whole pizza in a sitting like that. I probably shouldn't tell anyone how much I've drank in one sitting. So those things are really dangerous to me. Putting some whole food supplements in my body, not so dangerous. And
Well said, Bart.
follow me. Yeah. So I think it's in comparison, no big deal. Yeah.
Awesome. Beautiful. Okay. So sleep is one of our keys to longevity. What's up next?
All right, next one up. So super important, and I want to keep this one simple, yet really hopefully hit it home for it and have this one hit home. This is monitoring blood sugar levels. This is basically glucose monitoring, if whatever you want to call it, making sure that we don't have high blood sugars. I would go as far as saying this: if you just designed your diet around keeping your blood sugars low, that's it. Like that would keep you in full-blown, anti-aging longevity strategies.
Bart, that's it. You don't have to like name it something else or like follow something.
No, and you could, because some of those thingies, they do bounce back, and their goal, like I'll give you some of those names. So keto, for example, keto basically gets you low blood sugars, reduces the amount of carbohydrates that you have in your body. So your body burns ketones for a fuel source. So you're keeping your blood sugars low, because you only have ketones when your blood sugar is low. They don't really exist simultaneously. And then something like the carnivore diet takes it to the next level, which, by the way, let me take a time out here and let everyone know we are about to launch. So we are launching, I guess, right now. So we're doing another level up program. Some of you participated in our level up program before. This is where we're going to learn how to move better, eat better, think better. We are become stronger human beings. We're kicking it off April 3rd. And here's the twist, folks. This year, we're doing it carnivore style. And before everyone, so before we're going to do a live Q&A for everything questions about carnivore prior to the kicking off. This is what I would just say in the simple part of it. You've heard about the benefits of it. I've been using it clinically for a couple of years now. And yes, a lot of these benefits are true. It doesn't mean I don't like vegetables, but imagine for a moment, don't let this scare you, being on a whole food diet that had 0 carbs in it for 30 days. Imagine the inflammation that would go away. Imagine the weight loss that would take place. Imagine all the candidas and blood crap, the sugar issues that would go away. So if you've heard about it, you're wondering how to do it, we're going to do it collectively. I'm going to coach through the whole thing. We're going to coach 4 Mondays in a row, all kinds of food options. I'm going to give you a food list, even though you don't really need one. It's basically eat animals, right? Or eat animal products. And we're going to keep it simple. At the same time, we'll use the support of the environment, because the truth is, coming off of carbohydrates, unfortunately, it's not that easy for people. And people wonder, so why would I do this? Because ultimately, and we're not talking about this tonight, but it fits right in when we get to this, well in this topic right here, blood glucose and monitoring blood sugar levels, is we have to establish better metabolic flexibility. And that would fall right into this category of blood glucose monitoring. Our metabolic flexibility means this, that you should be able to eat meat all day long, every day. It is one of the foods that humans were designed to eat. And if you can't, that's not so good. You should also be able to eat vegetables all day, every day. We should be able to do both of those, and those are both very good for us. Imagine going 30 days, though. If you've never done it, this is the time to do it. And I'm going to challenge some people out there. So we're not just going to do, so it's carnivore style. We're going to do some other fun things with, this is a level up program, a little bit different than we had with the cleanse and whatnot. We're going to jump back to our topic in a moment, but stay tuned. More information come. If you want more information, just reach out to us, and we're going to do a live episode. What day are we doing that?
So we're going to be here on Monday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Central.
Okay.
Live Q&A. Well, we'll let you know about it, but we're so excited. It's going to be a cool, dynamic experience.
Yeah, I'm going to give resources of where we get all of our, animal products, even our meats, and even some of the cheeses. There's going to be a little modification there. So if you're even a little bit curious, don't hesitate. It's perfect time, especially right before summer, to just get yourself into perfect, literally just leveling up your health and then moving right down into summer. All right, so let's go back to the balance in blood sugar. And again, this is where diet. So I do recommend, if you've never monitored, so this is what it is. Blood sugar is this. When you eat food, if you have foods that convert to sugar quickly, which are carbohydrates, of course, bread, pasta, sugars, etc. When you eat them, they digest in your stomach and they get sent into the bloodstream. That raises your blood glucose levels. This is not good to always be this way. If they stay up, high blood glucose levels damage cells. That's what we need to know. So when we're talking about longevity, that is the opposite. The absolute opposite of longevity is to raise blood sugar levels and damage your cells, every cell, tissue, and organ in the body. So there's copious amounts of science out there that just says, listen, sugar destroys us. And really the grassroots of it is because when we have higher blood glucose levels and all that sugar is floating around the body, it oxidizes the system, it creates free radicals, and it damages cells. No bueno. All right.
No bueno.
No bueno. So we can track this. There's a couple different ways you can do it. The way I've been doing it for probably the last 7 to 10 years, and I'm just now getting around to ordering a CGM, which is a continuous glucose monitor, which is literally one you stick on you and you can wear for a couple months at a time, and it monitors all day long and you get to see things. I've just hesitated on that because I wear short sleeves all the time and I just don't want this thing in the back of my arm, and just for aesthetic reasons, but I am ordering one now. So I'm going to wear it all the way through the carnivore challenge. So I'm going to see my blood sugar levels all the way through there going on a no carb diet and see how it impacts my body and find out, does it agree with me physically? Because, longevity is important to me now. If this really adds up and it says, hey, well, your blood sugar levels have never been this good, then at least I have some evidence. Anyways, so we can also monitor it just like every day. There's a little finger prick test you can do, just like many diabetics are used to doing. And yeah, you prick your finger a little bit. No big deal for me. I know it's not for everybody. And yet what you've seen me do in the office for years now, I prick my finger. I do it every day, before I eat anything, and I monitor. And it really gives me, again, it's almost like the Oura Ring. It's a built-in coaching process because it doesn't lie. It lets me know. And your blood sugars can go up for all kinds of different reasons. It can go because they're under too much stress, too tired. That can happen. And it could be just because of the food you put in your body. And you might be thinking, well, doc, I'm eating really good. Last night I had, organic black rice, and I had a sweet potato, and I had some apples and a chopped up pineapple in there. And next thing you know, you're basically eating a sugar diet, and it's good, healthy food. But because all of it together is starting to raise the blood sugar levels. So monitoring blood sugar levels is one of the biggest eye openers. And I'll also say this way. I've had a lot of people say to me, Doc, it doesn't matter what I do, they never go down. Well, you're just not doing the right things. And maybe the finger prick test isn't a perfect test, but when we take the finger prick test and we do lab work and we get your fasting glucose level and we get your hemoglobin A1C and we start to be able to put all of these together, then you know what's going on. And if they're even inching in the wrong direction, the chronic diseases that we're dealing with in our country right now, and we're just going to call 2 of them, heart disease and diabetes, which are going to kill 1 million people a year. Make the pandemic look like it's child's play, quite frankly. 1 million people every single year. We're just sitting back watching it happen. Like it's like, oh, no big deal. No 1 million people, Puff Daddy. So it's not cool because we can interfere with that process and we can actually alter those outcomes. So in the event that we want to measure them, very easy to measure. Not, go and give a lab work every month is not that easy, checking your hemoglobin A1C. But every now and then, if you check your hemoglobin A1C, your fasting blood glucose levels, and you're doing a finger prick, you're going to know what your blood sugars are. So for those of you listening, you're doing that. I'm going to throw some numbers at you and move through these pretty quick. Anytime, if you check your blood sugar level and you're fasted, so you haven't eaten for 8 hours or so, ideally, you're under 100, okay? Milligrams per decibel. I forget the actual numbers there, but it's under 100 when you're measuring it there. If you've eaten and you're within 2 hours of your meal, ideally, you don't go above 140. So everyone says, we'll always talk about, you are going to spike up after any meal, no matter what, if you're carnivore, if you're keto, if you're a carbohydrate, you're going to spike up. But how high you spike up and the variability that you have, those are key. We want our bodies to be metabolically flexible enough where we don't have too much variation in that blood sugar, combined with an awareness and a consciousness about how and what we're eating. in how we feel when we are eating. So many people will eat, and then crash after the meal. That's a perfect example of blood sugars going well above 140 and then nosediving afterwards at 150, 180, 200, 300, 400. Bowl of ice cream after a big pasta dinner and a couple beers, 300, 400, and then dropping. And when they drop like that, it's exhausting. You feel like you have low blood sugar levels and they've only dropped back down to 150.
Mm-hmm.
So this little measure right here, measuring blood glucose levels, measuring your, the amount of the impact of eating carbohydrates or any food for that matter, in terms of longevity, a huge, huge measure.
Gotcha. That'll be interesting to see as you move through carnivore, observing your own response from your body. It's cool.
Yes. And then for any of those that are going to join us, just reach out. And if you want to do it as well, and you want to know the resources of who I'm using for the continuous glucose monitor, let me know. It's a great experiment. If you've never measured your glucose levels, the reason I don't bring that one up too much, I'm gonna tell you, it's not the cheapest thing. So sometimes it can be cost prohibitive. You pay like a monthly fee, you pay for the monitor. So it does add up a little bit. I do think it's a great investment in your health. When I first started testing my blood sugar levels, I was in Atlanta. I'm going to say this 10, 11 years ago, and get invited to this kind of small network group of doctors that were phenomenal doctors, functional medicine doctors from all around the world. And we did a 4-day experiment. And in that, we tested our blood sugar levels and we fasted. And this was on the front end of like keto and intermittent fasting. So this is a minute ago. And I remember thinking to myself, there's something wrong with this monitor. I was eating healthy, but I was eating frequently, and I was still sneaking in the carbohydrates that were driving up my blood sugar levels. And
You mean your blood sugar even picked up the things you sneaked in?
Oh,
Not
yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. So keys to longevity. Go ahead, Bart.
Yeah, so we'll move forward. And one more thing on just those. So there's a couple of different things I want to talk about in there. So that kind of covers our conversation about diet. Of course, God's garden, like everyone knew that one's coming, comes from root, plant, tree, walks in the garden, swims in the sea. And when we take that to the next level in terms of longevity, figuring out what the impact that those foods are having on our personal blood sugar levels, that's where we really get to start to dial in personal nutrition. And I want to throw this out there, just a reminder. Why nutrition is so important. So we make 2 million red blood cells per second. It's a lot of cells.
Wow.
Yeah. We make over 330 billion cells on any given day, all of them combined, white blood cells, red blood cells, all the other different ones, immune cells, 300 billion plus per day. So we should be asking ourselves, what are we making those cells with today? What did I make them with last night? And do these cells make me, and then fill in the blank, a better husband, a better doctor, a better wife, a better son, a better daughter, a better neighbor, a better human? And that's what if we start to get the discipline and the mindset and the consciousness to ask those questions versus, well, I don't feel bad, it doesn't really matter to me, and those kind of things. If we ask, does this help me be the best version of myself? I think that becomes a really good fuel source for making the next decision. Fair?
Definitely. Yeah, very fair. All right.
Okay.
So we got sleep, we got blood sugar, and then we got 2 to go.
Yes. All right. So the next one is measuring your heart rate variability. Not only measuring it, but we're trying to improve it. So let's talk about this. For a lot of people, this is going to be a new, like, what are you talking about? Heart rate variability. So just imagine in the past, we've always been able to measure our blood pressure, which is good. That's good measuring stick. And we've been able to measure our heart rate, like how many beats per minute is your heart doing. The heart rate variability is measuring what happens in between your heartbeat. And specifically, this is a measurement of your autonomic nervous system, letting you know how well your body adapts to stress. So again, this is relatively new technology in the sense that it continues to advance, and it's getting better and better and better. And I would say right where it is right now, it's very good at where it is from an advancement position. Maybe 10 years ago when I first introduced to this, it was conceptually awesome, harder to apply because the technology and how you did it was harder and harder yet. Aura is another company. Whoop, they all, again, and I just keep using those two names, but there's many out there that do it, that are measuring heart rate variability. And the reason this is so important, this gives us a very good identifier of how is your body handling and what is its capacity to manage stress. In a nutshell, the more sympathetic dominance that we have, so sympathetic dominance, I would say that we have two types of nervous system responses. You have a sympathetic nervous system and you have a parasympathetic nervous system. And your sympathetic nervous system is essentially where your fight or flight exists and it lives, which is interesting because in sympathetic dominance, it slows down digestion and it slows down peristalsis, the movement. Almost all people out there who have constipation as an issue have an issue with sympathetic dominance. The higher the sympathetic dominance, the lower it drives HRV. So the more you stay wound up, this makes perfect sense, and now it's measurable. The more you stay wound up, and that's always been you're type A or whatever it may be, or I'm always doing something, I can't sit still. The more you're wound up, the lower your adaptability becomes. So this too, you can get a score. And what I would say is when you see, a lot of times I see on Instagram people like showing their score and it's a super high score. All of their scores is completely irrelevant to an individual score. So never compare yourself. Be like, Doc, oh my God, this person has 79 and mine's only a 41. It is only relative to you. So when you get your score, so for example, let's kind of get my mind with my Aura. In the past, it was always in about the low 40s. That was pretty consistent for me. So my goal is get it above the low 40s. So I'm not trying to get it to 100 and not compare, well, it could be at 100 or 150. It's only relative to where are you today and what direction you're heading into. So over probably the past year, I've slowly moved that marker from low 40s to consistently high 40s, now even into 50s consistently. And then if I get thrown off, and what will throw me off? Travel is a good one.
Yeah.
My recent trip to Tampa put a beat down on my HRV, cut it in half. And it basically is also a way to, well, this is a good example. When during the pandemic, I was able to monitor people's HRV to see if they potentially got exposed to COVID, which is pretty neat. It tells us when our body's under a lot of duress and when it's time to pump the brakes a little bit. So the heart rate variability is a measure of your autonomic nervous system's ability to adapt to stress. So anything and everything we can do to increase HRV is a direct reflection of what's going to happen in the future for our personal health.
Mm. So noticing that you have like a lower relative HRV, if you were to focus on your sleep, if you were to focus on your blood sugar, those would be two foundations to lean in towards, yeah?
100%. So for those of you out there that you're on board with this conversation, this is not new to you, and you say, man, I'm having a hard time getting my HRV up. There's a couple key things here. Everything we just talked about is 100% in play. Your sleep, specifically, you must increase the quality and quantity. If your HRV is not going up, I'll tell you right now, you need more sleep. You need higher quality and more quantity of sleep. And sometimes we literally argue with reality. So for me, I argued with reality for a long period of time until I started getting the data. I used to always think 5-6 hours, that's all I needed. And for a lot of times I could get away with it. And that's what I thought I was doing. I'm just paying those debts back now. So for years, probably decades, I pound my chest and be like, I got this. I'm going to keep going. Now I've discovered, and I'm starting to even question and change this now. I discovered that after monitoring and really assessing it, 7 hours and 15 minutes made me kind of what I'd call Superman. That was my superhuman need right there of good quality. And I'd get close to 2 hours of deep sleep, hour and a half of REM. And again, my numbers are irrelevant to you. Yours just wherever they are, if you can improve them, beautiful. So those were all improving, and 7 hours and 15 minutes was what I needed. Starting to discover now that my fastest changes in an HRV happen when I get more than 8. And I want to argue with that because that's a lot of time in bed for me. I'm not used to that of sleeping, which means, remember, I sleep with dogs. So in order for me to get 8 hours of quality sleep, I probably have to be in the bed for 8 hours, 45 minutes, 9 hours.
Hmm.
And that's an argument I have with myself all the time.
Yeah. So arguing with reality, Bart, that's something that I think we've all experienced here and there
Yes.
as
So
truth comes.
some of the big way, if you are out there and you are looking, so how do I improve my heart rate variability? There's really three things that I'm going to encourage you to do here. One, get your sleep under control. Don't pass go without that one. Yeah, that's going to be a critical one. And don't argue with reality. Challenge yourself. See what happens if you were in bed for 10 hours for an entire week. I'd be shocked if your HRV didn't go up significantly. Just see what happens, right? Because this, if you're trying to defy this aging process, that is a significant way to do it. That'd be number one. Number two is get a grip on your blood sugar levels. Get your diet clean. Have to do this. I can't say this enough because when we bring blood sugars and they damage cells, if your body's in damage, you always have to be in repair. If you're in repair, you're not building, you're recovering. Those are totally different things, right? So any athlete knows that there's a recovery, then there's a building phase. And you got to find out, what are you putting your body in on any given day, at any given moment? Are you making it just recover from the beatdown because of what you put into your body nutritionally or lack of? Or are you actually preparing your body to use the nutrients to build? And that is key. And that's why we really want to really hone in and make sure we get the blood sugars and blood glucose levels under control. And then number three, and there might even be more than one here, that cardiovascular health is huge here.
Mm.
So we are monitoring, right, our heart rate variability. So one of the simplest things, there is an exercise, I think people at least are semi-familiar with the phrase or the term called HIIT exercises, high intensity interval training. And really what that type of training does is we go hard, and then we back off. We go hard, we go back off. And that's training our bodies to be adaptive. So having a healthy cardiovascular system. So maybe you go, I don't know if I have a healthy cardiovascular system. Then the simple question is, are you doing anything to increase your cardiovascular health? Again, I'm trying to keep this as simple as can be. And I do not want to discount just the component. And I shouldn't even say just. Walking is part of cardiovascular health. In fact, I had a lady in there today. She's probably in her mid 60s. She's walking 5 to 7 miles a day. Anyone who's walked 5-7 miles a day, I have dogs. Sometimes I get to 5 miles. That's a lot of walking. And the beauty of doing that means that you're putting your cardiovascular system under effort, under stress, it's in working mode for probably anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. That's good.
Real
So
good.
please don't discount. You do not have to get on a treadmill. You don't have to become a world-class bicyclist. If you get up to that level, fantastic. Yet wherever you are, don't discount just the power of getting out on a bike ride or getting your walk on daily and doing it with some consistency. So those guys are huge. Blood sugar management, cardiovascular health, sleep, HIIT exercises. And I'm going to throw one other one in there with, as we start to just become more conscious about all of this, and we're paying more and more attention about how our body responds, our mind responds, and we're just being more in tune. If you're able to recognize your triggers, and I would say this is so huge what I'm about to share with you. If you recognize when you bump yourself into sympathetic dominance and you get wound up, and it could be because of the email, it could be because of the phone or the kids or the work or whatever it may be, the golf cart that's driving in front of you, whatever it may be. If you can recognize that and have tools, the simple tool is, if you want to remove yourself from sympathetic dominance, learn some breathing techniques, specifically learn how to exhale slowly. That's a great starting point, but there's so many breathing techniques that will completely take you out of sympathetic dominance and shift you into parasympathetic. And on that note, it's important. I mentioned earlier that when you're in sympathetic state, you slow down digestion, which means you're going to get an upset stomach. Anything you put into your body that's difficult to break down or takes a lot of effort, things like fats and proteins, now I'm going to upset your stomach. So the only food you really want to consume, carbohydrates. So under stress, we just lean more toward the foods that don't serve us. And those raises the blood sugar level. So if you imagine before you eat, a practice would be that you're going to take a nice deep breath, slow exhale, and feel it in your body. Don't just do it, be like, check off, I did it. But you feel the body start to unwind, to release some muscle tension. So a breathing pattern. So recognizing when you have these triggers. And again, that takes some consciousness. You got to own it, right? Like this is, you got to call yourself out technically. Say, I'm stressed out. That triggered me. But when we do that and we're willing to then say, all right, Bart needs a timeout right now. And I take a deep breath in. I love the practice of before you eat, you breathe. Because in parasympathetic state of nervous system, nervous function, that is when we rest and digest. So if you just did your breathing techniques just before you went to bed and just before you put food in your body, you move this needle intensely.
Those are awesome places to reflect, to get that HRV balance to a great place for you to you, right? So we've got these 3 keys to longevity so far. Bart, should we touch on the 4th? We got a couple moments here.
Yes. 4th one is kind of an obvious one, simple one. And we guess we kind of semi-touched on it, but it's worth to mention again here. Yet in order for longevity, we have to be strong. We have to move our bodies. And I want to phrase it in this category here. So again, I started this off by saying, 1, we want to feel good along this journey. We want to literally improve, our health span, not just our lifespan. So feeling good along the way. And we probably owe a massive debt to our bodies in what we've done. So I'd like to say just being active is enough. And I don't know that it is. I think it's awesome. So for example, I've shared, I go to the farm often on the weekends. And I tell you what, man, being active for 8-10 hours a day, I know a lot of people that do that. Hats off to them. It's very difficult for me. So, and I remember I used to be able to do it like that. And last week, I probably spent 3-4 days at the farm. Each day I was putting 8-10 hours into just working, having fun as can be. Absolutely exhausted. By Sunday, I had nothing left. It was a pure rest day. I didn't get to do my target shooting. I was just toast. So
it's really saying something, Bart.
It is saying something. I look forward to that. I'm looking for it like every Sunday. I'm like, I get to shoot today. But I was toast. I was literally physically toast. And I should have been. I worked, I was doubling down for a couple of days. But it reminded me that is an endurance that I used to have. That is something that most humans should be capable of. Now, hear me out when I say this. We are designed to be hunter-gatherers. So it is very common that our genetic makeup means that we should be moving minimum every 2 hours and doing things like lifting heavy objects, like running fast after animals, like helping other people, carry water, hard stuff. And we don't do this anymore. The tendency, I was trying to think like, how does it get to lazier and lazier? And we all have these tendencies. One, we go to the grocery store, and what parking spot do we look for?
The close ones.
Closest damn one, unless you got yourself a fancy car and you don't want to get dinged, so you park far away. Right?
The Ferrari, got it.
Yeah, you got the Ferrari and you park it far away. All right, so with that, we take escalators, we take elevators. When's the last time? I'd love to hear anyone say, when's the last time you walked up 6 flights instead of taking the elevator? We don't. No one does it, right? Not unless we have like a challenge to do it. So we have now figured out how to do all these things in life the easiest possible way, expending the least amount of energy and effort. So we need to be strong. And what propels us into our future is our muscles, period. They are. That is what's going to get you up off of your couch, in and out of your car, up and off of your bed in the morning. And if that gets really, really difficult, you're going to want to do it less and less often. So while we still have the health, and everyone, you're still in that while, you still have it. If you're listening to this, you still have it. This is the time for us to get stronger. This is the time for us to level up our health. So again, April 3rd, we're kicking off our level up, and there will be a physical challenge in there. There's going to be something that pushes our envelope a little bit. Say, I could have and I should have. I used to be able to. Let's get back to it now. Let's not wait, because next year's not going to be easier than this year. So I don't know I can emphasize enough to do something. Science tells us right now, 8,000 steps a day is phenomenal. for cardiovascular health, for keeping strong. Ladies, if you're postmenopausal, you have to do things. You got to keep strong. You got to put your bones under stress so your bones stay strong. So there's that whole bones remodel the stress. You got to lift some weights. Talked about that several times. It was fascinating where I had several ladies in their 60s today that were doing yoga and lifting weights. Just freaking awesome. Like that's it. Like that's the answer right there. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. When they say
there are 5 women on Facebook right now who are affirming that they do always take the stairs instead of the elevators, Bart.
Amen. So power to you, and that's motivating, and keep doing it. I absolutely love it. And you're probably 5 very healthy, strong people, which is beautiful. So I had a simple question. So one of the ladies said, all right, I'm going right now to Target. What weight should I buy? That was a good question. I said, all right, this is what you can do while you're in Target. I want you to grab some hand weights and go to your side 10 times. If that was not hard, get a little heavier weights. Find the one that the 10th one was pretty hard, buy that set, and buy another set twice as heavy. And those are going to be the ones you're going to press above your head. We're stronger going this way than we are to the side. So that was how easy it was to start building muscle.
That's an awesome formula, Bart.
Yeah, it's really that easy. So if you don't have dumbbells, go invest about $25 over at Target. Most likely, like let's just say you've never lifted weights before and you're a 6-year-old female, you're probably going to get a set of 3s and a set of 5s or 10, probably 8s. You probably won't do more than that. And then you can outgrow them. And that's an awesome thing to do, right? Then you get to invest in another set. So let's do something strong. And listen, guys, you're not off the hook here. I see more and more guys with big bellies and little butts. That is a key that you are becoming metabolically unflexible. So you're decreasing your metabolic flexibility, meaning you're using more carbohydrates and sugar, your insulin resistance is going up, and you have fatty liver. When I see the belly go out and the butt go down, you're losing muscle mass, even though the scale is going up. So this is important for us, guys. We got to get strong. And where we want to maintain our strength is in our butt, our glutes, our shoulders, and our pecs. So that's where the primary muscles are. That keeps our testosterone high and keeps our bones strong. So those 4 things right there with better sleep. We want longevity. We want to know how to measure it. And so listen, when it comes to exercise, is it measurable? It sure is. Get on the ground, do some push-ups, right? So again, if you want to get a little stronger, you want to move better, eat better, think better, join us, folks, April 3rd. I think, Whitney, you'll probably have some links or something like that. You'll get emails out. Join us for a level up program. We're doing a carnivore style. Do not be intimidated or scared by it. Actually be excited. It's interesting comment. And we'll probably cover this in that talk yet. If I tell people we're going to do vegetarian or vegan for a month, people are like, yeah, okay, I probably could do that, right? And it's just a concept. If I tell them we're going to eat another one of God's foods for just a month, they panic. And it's very, very interesting because I will tell you my years of watching people practice vegetarianism. So vegetables are fantastic, but nobody practices vegetable-tarians. They practice carbitarians. And I haven't seen really good results with that. In fact, I could argue against it. So let's eat right. Well, let's go back here. We're going to sleep right. We want longevity here, and we want measurable. We want to sleep right, meaning that we want to measure the quality and quantity. REM and deep sleep are great places to start. To monitor your blood sugar levels. You can go down over to CVS and probably pick up a blood glucose monitor. I think they're probably $50-$60. Do it for a month or 2. Get yourself continuous glucose monitor. They're going to cost you a little bit more, but really great data. If you've never tested it, it's an eye opener for what you're eating daily. And that blood glucose level is a big determinant about what your future health is going to look like. Heart rate variability, new technology. Be on cutting edge. There's so many easy ways for us to really have, without hiring a personal coach every day, to literally wear one that talks to you every single morning. And then, of course, exercise. And do I think an active lifestyle is enough? I think an active lifestyle is awesome. I think we have a debt to pay, and we probably need to catch up a little bit. And therefore, I do think that exercise is no longer an option. I think we have to do hard shit.
True that. Well, for the length in our years and the life within them, Bart, those are awesome strategies. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for the Health Made Simple show this evening.
Yes, and thank you everyone once again for being here. Keep doing anything, keep sharing out, keep spreading the love. And of course, we can take deliberate action for the mind, the body, overall wellness. That'll be awesome.